was 9 years old and thinking about maybe someday hoping that there might be a chance to fly in space, to all of the things that have happened since then and until recently, to have been living and commanding the world spaceship, commanding the International Space Station, just an amazing sequence of things. And wonderful to be able to take time right now and try and pick through all that and write about some of the stories and maybe see if there's anything useful amongst all of those adventures to share with other people. I just thought, since the book is brand new, I'll just tell you what it's like to ride through a launch. And then we have a little time for questions and answers, and then somewhere in the store I think they have set up where we're going to do the book signing also. So let's say that today was the day you were going to leave Earth. Like, imagine if when you woke up tomorrow, let's say tomorrow, you woke up tomorrow morning and you knew that by supper time you'd be in orbit, you'd be weightless. It makes the day different. It makes you know, pulling on your t-shirt and thinking that when I take this t-shirt off, I'm going to be above the atmosphere going 5 miles a second. It puts kind of an aura around the whole day. And I've flown twice on the space shuttle, so it happened in Florida once, and then once on the Soyuz, so that happened once. Actually, I'm going to tell you a goofy story. So, before you put on your spacesuit, it's a little bit graphic, but you want to go to the bathroom really thoroughly, because you're going to be locked inside a very small spaceship for a couple of days. And if you're flying the Russian spaceship, it's really small. So the toilet facilities are extremely limited on the Soyuz. And so therefore, they ask that you give yourself an enema before launch. Not one, but 2 enemas back to back before launch. So, you know, this glory of spaceflight, this wonderful human experience. So there I found myself the morning of launch, laying on a cold, hard, tiled Russian floor on my side, administering an enema to myself. Well, if you've ever given yourself an enema while lying on the floor, you'll know that you have a little bit of time, you know, while you're waiting for things to happen. And so I thought, well, I'm laying here on the floor, I'll call my wife, because, you know, what the heck, I don't have to tell her what I'm doing, I'll just lay here. So I called my wife, and we're having a nice conversation back and forth with me laying on the floor. Unbeknownst to me, in the adjoining bathroom, which I hadn't realized was connected by small ventilation ducts, was Tom Marshburn, my crewmate, who was simultaneously lying on his bathroom floor, administering himself his second enema. And so he was faced with this dilemma. Do I tell him that I'm lying here and listening to his conversation with his wife, or not? And so the 2 of us lay there, giving us, we're about to go fly in a rocket ship. And there's the 2 of us laying there on the floor, giving ourselves enema, me having a private conversation with my wife, and Tom sitting there trying not to listen, waiting for things to happen. That's what the morning of space flight is really like. But eventually, you ride a vehicle out to your spaceship, and you crawl in, and it's very non-glamorous also, crawling into a spaceship. It's because instead of sitting like this, it's like that. So the seats are pointed the wrong way, and you climb in, and then you have to climb up to get into your chair, sort of like up into a tree fort or something. Then you plunk yourself down on your chair with your feet up over your head in the shuttle, and there's one astronaut in there strapping you in, pulling all the straps tight. And my wife had written a nice note for me, so he passes me the nice note for my wife, and then she'd given him a kiss to give to me. So I get a nice manly kiss on the forehead before launch, and then that one astronaut straps everybody in, and then climbs out of the shuttle, and then we do the pressure checks, and then the engines start to light. And it's amazing feeling the vehicle come alive underneath you. About 3.5 minutes before the shuttle launches, the huge engine bells go through their gimbaling check, and the whole vehicle sways underneath you like when you climb onto an elephant. If you ever had one of those elephant rides, and it's like this gigantic thing swaying under you. And then 6 seconds before launch in the shuttle, the engines start to light, and the external tank is here and the shuttle's here, so when the engine's light, it bends the whole thing. So you can actually feel the whole vehicle sway away from you as the engine's light. And then the spring of the metal of the whole structure brings you back to the vertical. It takes about 6 seconds. And in that time, we're checking that the engines that are burning the hydrogen and oxygen are working properly. They get 6 seconds to check everything. Assuming it's all working properly, then the 2 solid rockets up the side light. And when they light, you are going somewhere. Because you have 7 million pounds of thrust. You're burning fuel at 12 tons a second. It's unbelievable the amount of power it takes to lift the shuttle off the ground. By the time you clear the tower, just the guidance tower, you're going 100 miles an hour straight up. And in 45 seconds, you go through the speed of sound, straight up, accelerating. You know, Chuck Yeager just one half a lifetime ago. And the shuttle accelerates straight up, 45 seconds. 70 seconds, it is going higher and faster than the Concorde went. It's Mach 2, 60,000 feet, accelerating straight up in 70 seconds. In 2 minutes, it's above the air. The solid rockets are empty. So they explode off the side in a big flash of light, and you hear the bang, and they explode off, and they fall down, parachutes open, land in the Atlantic, a boat goes out, divers pick them up, they drag them back into the Kennedy Space Center, take them apart, clean them up, fill them up with fuel again, and we use those solids over and over. But meanwhile, we're still strapped to the big gas tank and accelerating away. And it's like a dragster where someone is just progressively pushing harder and harder on the accelerator as you get squished heavier and heavier and heavier into your seat. And about 6 minutes in, we roll right side up. The shuttle was on the bottom, but then we roll right side up because we're so far from Florida that our antennas can't reach Florida anymore. So we roll right side up so our antennas can start talking to the satellites, so we can talk to Houston on the way uphill. We just keep accelerating until we hit 3G. We are accelerating that way at 3 times the force of gravity. It's amazing to watch the speed build as we go up through Mach 19, 20 times the speed of sound, 21 times the speed of sound. And then we actually start throttling back because the structure can't take more than 3.5 G or it'd come apart. So we hold 3G, the engines walk themselves back, and then suddenly, at 8 minutes and 42 seconds, you're out of fuel, the engine shut off, and you are instantly weightless. And that's what a launch feels like. It's really fun. I really recommend it. And I rode the space shuttle twice, and then the Soyuz launch is very similar, but then spent half a year on the space station and did my absolute best to take some pictures and some videos and show everybody what it's like. But what I'd like to do now is maybe spend a few minutes answering questions before we get to signing books. Does anybody have a question they'd like me to answer? Yes, young lady. And what's your name? Evelyn? Evelyn asked me, how did I feel, or how did it feel in space, and was I sad when I came back down? In space, let's see, it mostly felt like magic. And the reason it feels like magic is because you can fly. Imagine right now if everybody in here could fly. Like if you could push off your chair and fly all the way up and grab that light up there. And you could push off the ceiling and do 1,000 Tinkerbell somersaults on the way down here and touch the ground again. That's what it's like in space the whole time. You have a superpower. It's great. And when you float over by the window, the whole world is just pouring by underneath you at 5 miles a second. So you go across the US in 9 minutes. And you go around the world in 90 minutes. Go get 16 sunrises a day. It's just beautiful. So it feels great. And it feels like it's Christmas every day. And was I sad when I came home? Apart from being sad because I felt sick, because it's just so brutal coming home. After being that wonderful Tinkerbell for 6 months, now suddenly you're like smucked back down into the earth again and like squished into the ground by the oppressive